We had the Billy Joe Saunders, Demetrius Andrade press conference in Boston, Massachusetts, United States yesterday. Both guys were in very high spirits, cracking jokes, trash talking each other, but it was all relatively pally-pally. Even at the stare down that you can see on screen right now, they ended up hugging each other bizarrely at the end of the stare down. So it was all very pally-pally, but I'm sure it will get a hell of a lot more serious the closer we get to the fight. Billy Joe Saunders is a very naturally confident character, but as confident as he is, he reins himself in a little bit when he's on foreign soil. He's not quite as brash and aggressive towards his opponents when he's in their backyard as he is when he's in the UK. And that has to be expected, really, doesn't it? Because he can't bring hundreds of people with him wherever he goes in the United States every time he's there. He can't do that. So he has to behave himself a little better when he's in the next man's backyard. If you notice that the Lemieux press conference and the weigh-in and so on and so forth in Canada, Billy Joe Saunders was on his best behavior compared to how he behaves in the UK. And some people are going to say, oh, Billy Joe's scared. You see, when he fights a man in his backyard, he's not so brash. He's not so brave. I mean, he's smart enough to know that he can't go to a different country where he doesn't know anybody and behave the same way as he does in his backyard. You know, he knows he can't do that. It's like if you're from this hood and you go to the rival hood or a hood in the next city, you know you can't walk around as comfortably in that place as you do in your own neighborhood. Do you understand? Billy Joe knows that too. So that's what we saw here. He's a bit more respectful when he's in the next man's backyard. But you can still tell he's confident and he believes he's going to win the fight. I think this is going to be the toughest fight of Billy Joe Saunders' career. I've seen a lot of Billy Joe Saunders fans saying Saunders is going to totally outbox and clown Demetrius Andrade. And Eddie Hearn is definitely having reservations about this fight. Eddie Hearn has been quite open in saying the plan was to have Andrade fight a couple fights before taking on Billy Joe because he's been very inactive. So there's definitely apprehension there from Eddie Hearn, particularly because Andrade is one of the bigger names so far that they've signed to the zone. And not like Andrade is a particularly big name, but he is unbeaten. He does have amateur pedigree, and he is somewhat of a character. He's had beef with the Charlos and what have you. So Eddie Hearn is putting a fair amount of stock in Demetrius Andrade delivering for him as one of his would-be stars on DAZN. So I think he's a little nervous about the Billy Joe fight happening right now. Andrade, regardless of the layoff and all that, I still think will be the toughest fight that Billy Joe Saunders has ever had. I don't see it being anything like the Lemieux fight. I see it being more similar to the Andy Lee fight, something like that, but tougher than the Andy Lee fight. I think Demetrius Andrade is a more awkward opponent than Andy Lee. Andy Lee was a decent middleweight, but I just feel Andrade is faster, slicker, a bit more versatile, and just more awkward than an Andy Lee. So yeah, I'm anticipating a tough fight for Billy Joe. And as I said the other day with regards to BoxRec and their statistics, like their tailor the tape, the height and reach and all that kind of thing, Demetrius Andrade on BoxRec, I think is still listed as being 5'11" or something like that. Maybe I'm getting it twisted, but I've seen Demetrius Andrade listed as 5'11" somewhere, whether it's on BoxRec or whether it's on Fight Night. You know, somewhere he's listed at 5'11". Now, Billy Joe is supposed to be 5'11", right? That's what Billy Joe is listed at. You're not going to tell me that these guys are the same height. So somebody is not 5'11". I've seen Andrade listed as 6'1" as well, which would make more sense here. 6'1", 5'11". but there's 2 inches between 6'1" and 5'11". So to me, that looks like more than 2 inches height difference. That looks like more like 3.5 maybe inches in height difference. So that would make Andrade maybe 6'1", Billy Joe 5'10" at best. Because I remember Billy Joe when he was face to face with Eubank Jr. And I've seen Eubank Jr. in real life. And Eubank Jr. is a legit 5'11". Definitely a legit 5'11". Billy Joe looked noticeably shorter than Chris Eubank Jr. when they fought and when they were face to face. So I don't know how tall Billy Joe. Maybe Billy Joe's 5'9.5", something like that. Who knows? We ain't got Billy Joe in front of us here to measure him accurately, make sure his feet are perfectly flat on the ground, standing up straight. Anyway, let's talk about the actual fight now that we're done with the preliminary nonsense. Yeah, as I say, I think it's going to be the toughest fight of Billy Joe's career. I think the height and reach of Andrade and the physical strength will play a factor in this fight. I also think the fact that Andrade is energized by being signed to DAZN and getting life-changing money. This is what all the fighters who have signed to DAZN so far are saying, that they're getting life-changing money. Tevin Farmer was saying the same thing. Tevin Farmer, I've never seen him so happy. Demetrius Andrade, I've never seen him so happy. They're getting paid this kind of money. They're getting to fight regularly. And I think that will put a battery. This is a term that they use in old school New York. They use the term putting a battery in your back. And that's what has happened to Demetrius Andrade here. They put a battery in his back. The news, well, not the news, but the deal that he's done with Eddie Hearn has made him very happy. It's energized him. And I think it may revitalize him in training camp. And he's going to train harder than ever, because at the end of the day, this is not a world champion who's maybe, had some lethargic performances and he's had issues with his management team or his promotional team. And then he's now signed a decent deal and he's taking on a run-of-the-mill contender. Because in a situation like that, the champion may get lackadaisical. They may get happy and, I'm making money now and all this kind of stuff. Let me just defend my title against this bozo. And that's when he might slip up. But in this instance, no, you've got Andrade challenging for a world title at middleweight. So I don't think he's going to get lackadaisical. I don't think he's going to underestimate Billy Joe. I think he's going to train like an absolute beast for this fight. I think he's going to be energized by the fact he's getting paid more money than he probably would have been getting paid if this opportunity had come on a different platform. So, yeah, I think he's happy. I think he's energized. And I'm expecting a revitalized version of Demetrius Andrade. I think we're going to see the best Andrade we've seen for a while. Will it be good enough to beat Billy Joe? It remains to be seen. But I certainly believe that it's going to be the toughest fight Billy Joe's had as a professional. And he's had some tough fights. Billy Joe's fight against Chris Eubank Jr., that was a close fight. People seem to forget that. People act like Billy Joe just went in there and won every single round against Chris Eubank Jr. Not the case. He certainly won the early rounds against Eubank Jr. But the longer the fight went, the tougher it got for Billy Joe. And certainly the last few rounds were very, very tough for Billy Joe. So he's had some tough fights. The Andy Lee fight was close. He won it, legit, don't get it twisted. But it was a competitive fight. And obviously that fight that he had against Akavov was very tough. A lot of people feel like Billy Joe actually was lucky to get the decision in that fight. Akavov was way sharper than Billy Joe in the early going, and it was looking bad for him there. I'm expecting Billy Joe to be much better, obviously, against Andrade than it was against Akavov. He's away from home. Billy Joe's also getting career best money. And I noticed Eddie Hearn putting his arm around Billy Joe's shoulder whenever he could. And Hearn has made no secret of the fact that he'd like to sign Billy Joe. And perhaps giving Billy Joe life-changing money, well, let me not call it life-changing money for Billy Joe, but it's certainly a career high purse for Billy Joe, according to Hearn. maybe Billy Joe might be tempted somewhere in the back of his mind. He said, no, I'm loyal to Frank Warren and so on and so forth. But let's see how it goes, man. Let's see how it goes. And interestingly, talking about Frank Warren, Warren was not present at this press conference. He will be present at the Fight Week press conference. He said so himself. Well, actually, he says a lot of things and doesn't deliver, but he never committed to being at this press conference. Let's just put it that way. When he was asked, was it last week or whenever, he never committed to attending this particular press conference. But he did say he'd be at the press conference Fight Week because Billy Joe's his fighter. And yeah, he wants to be there to represent him. That's what a lot of boxing fans are looking forward to. I know Frank Warren was a bit coy when he was asked about this by, I think it was Boxing Social, or maybe it was Seconds Out who asked him about it. And he tried to brush the whole rivalry with Eddie Hearn aside. But the fans do want to see, especially the hardcore fans who really follow the promoters and what have you, as well as the fighters. The fans want to see the first public confrontation between Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn. The fans want to see it, and to be honest with you, it would help to build the fight even more, at least in the UK, and this fight is happening in the United States. So it would help to build the fight in the UK. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this fight is happening, I think this fight is happening on Sky, isn't it? Or is it on BT? Maybe I'm buzzing. But I'm not sure if this fight might actually be happening on Sky in the UK, which would be another coup for Eddie Hearn. Having one of Frank Warren's fighters fighting on his show against his fighter in his fighter's backyard on his platform in the United States. Imagine if it's on Sky 2 rather than on BT. Jeez. Frank Warren is taking L's, but obviously he's getting a cut of Billy Joe's money. And if it's really good money, then Frank Warren at this point in time, he's going to get what he can get, innit? Old Frankie boy. So let me know what you think in the comment section below about this particular fight. Billy Joe Saunders versus Demetrius Andrade. I know Andrade pronounces it Andrade, but I've heard him say, different people in his family pronounce it different ways. Some people say Andrade, other people say Andrade. So it is what it is. It's a Spanish name as far as I'm aware, and the Spanish pronounce it Andrade. It's like the whole Rigondeaux thing when people were telling me, oh, Hatman, you're pronouncing it wrong. Yeah, Rigondeaux pronounces it Rigondeaux. Well, it's a French name, and as far as I'm aware, the way it's pronounced in French is Rigondeaux, essentially. Or it's certainly closer to Rigondeaux than Rigondeaux, That's what I'll say. So anyway, let me know what you feel about everything I've talked about in this particular video. All right, it's Hatman, I'm out.